when you hop in your car and turn the key, you don't usually sit there visualizing the pistons
Yeah,
firing.
right. Definitely not.
You just you put the vehicle in drive and expect it to move forward. The underlying mechanics are completely invisible to you.
Yeah, you're just focused on the destination.
Exactly. But if that engine suddenly starts sputtering or, making a weird metallic grinding noise when you accelerate, your perspective shifts instantly.
Oh, absolutely. Suddenly you care a whole lot about those hidden gears.
Right. You have to pop the hood and stare at the machinery. And language, especially the language you speak every single day, is basically built on that exact same premise.
It is, yeah. It's this massive, intricate piece of machinery that we just operate entirely on autopilot.
You really do?
We cruise down the conversational highway without a second thought about, the thousands of structural decisions we're making per minute.
Until we hit a linguistic pump. Or maybe we try to explain the rules of the road to someone who is just learning to drive.
Which is always a humbling experience.
It really is. Which is why we are opening the hood today on 4 of the most common, yet surprisingly treacherous, gears in the English language.
We are talking about do, does, did, and their constant frustrating rival, make.
Whether you are actively studying English right now and just, pulling your hair out over these words, or you're simply curious about the hidden structural engineering of the language you already speak natively, today's deep dive is for you.
We're going to completely demystify these tiny powerhouses.
Yes. We've got some great instructional sources that break down exactly when to use them for action versus creation and uncover how do, does, and did act as the ultimate structural tools for our daily conversations. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to really understand a word like do, we kind of have to start by building a massive conceptual wall between it and the word make.
Because they're not interchangeable, right?
Not at all. And this specific division is actually one of the biggest hurdles for English learners worldwide. And for a very good historical reason, honestly.
Right, because in a lot of other languages, speakers just don't have to deal with this split at all.
Exactly. They usually just have one heavy-duty verb to cover both concepts. Like, if you speak Spanish, you rely on hacer.
Oh, sure.
Or in French, you lean on faire. In those languages, a single verb covers both the act of performing a mundane task and the act of creating a brand new physical object.
But English, in its infinite quirkiness, took that unified concept and just split it right in two.
It did. It demands that you constantly categorize your actions in real time, which creates a tremendous amount of cognitive friction for anyone learning the language.
Well, let's establish a baseline rule from our sources to help categorize those actions. Do is fundamentally about action.
Right. It's reserved for activities, jobs, or tasks.
Things that don't necessarily leave a physical object behind in the world once you finish them. Make, on the other hand, is entirely about creation.
It implies building, manufacturing, or producing something tangible.
Right, something you can physically touch, or a distinct, newly formed result that just didn't exist before you started.
Action versus creation. That is the core philosophy governing the split here.
The way I picture this in my head, if we go back to our car metaphor, you can think of do as the physical sweat, or the effort, like the engine running.
I like that. The engine is doing work, but it isn't birthing a new object.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And make is the final sculpture. It's the shiny new product rolling off the factory assembly line.
And that maps onto the specific examples from the source material perfectly. Just look at the tasks that take do. You do homework, you do housework, you do the ironing.
Do the dishes.
Right. There is a lot of sweat and a lot of effort involved in those chores, but you aren't conjuring a new physical object into existence.
Yeah, when you finish doing the dishes, you haven't manufactured a plate. You've just maintained an existing object through a task.
But look at how the energy shifts when we bring in make. You make a cake, you make furniture, you make a dress.
Oh, wow, yeah.
In every single one of those scenarios, you started with raw materials. You took flour, wood, or fabric, you applied effort, and you created a tangible product.
The sculpture, as we put it, has been realized. The sources highlight a really critical distinction here that I think is just a brilliant aha moment for understanding this rule.
Oh, the job contrast.
Yes. It's the contrast we see when we apply both words to the concept of a job.
This is where the underlying philosophy becomes crystal clear.
Because in English, we say do a job when we are talking about performing work. If I say he does an amazing job as a teacher, I am talking about him expending effort.
Right, he is the engine running, just performing the daily tasks required of his profession.
But if you change the verb and say make a job, you've altered the meaning entirely.
Completely. It specifically means creating employment for someone else. You are acting as an entrepreneur or a
Yeah.
corporation, right?
Yeah, you're producing a brand new position in the economy that didn't exist yesterday.
You are manufacturing an opportunity out of thin air, which is exactly why the sources point out that saying make homework is completely objectively incorrect.
Because homework is a task to be performed by a student. You aren't in a factory building a physical homework object out of wood and glue.
Unless you're like tasked with building a very specific diorama project or
Oh,
something.
sure.
But linguistically, homework takes do. You do your homework because you are executing a task.
Now that feels incredibly clean on the surface. Sweat versus sculpture.
Yeah.
Action versus creation.
Right.
But if you listen closely to your own conversations today, you'll notice you use make all the time when you aren't pointing at a physical, touchable result.
Oh, absolutely.
So if the rule is so clear-cut, why do we have all these messy exceptions?
Well, what's fascinating here is that language is inherently organic, you know? It doesn't always want to stay in the neat little engineering boxes we build for it.
It really doesn't.
The confusion stems from the fact that make isn't strictly reserved for physical, touchable objects. We also draft make to represent abstract outcomes and results.
I have to admit, when I was reading through the source material, I got completely stuck on a couple of examples regarding this.
Which ones?
Well, the text notes that we use make for making noise or making a mess. But a noise isn't a physical object I can hold in my hand,
Yeah.
right?
You can't touch a noise.
And a mess isn't a literal sculpture I could put on a shelf. So if they aren't tangible products, why aren't we just doing noise?
So think about the actual mechanism of what a mess or a noise is. It is a specific produced outcome.
Okay, go on.
If you walk into a pristine, quiet living room, there is silence and order. If you then throw toys all over the floor and scream at the top of your lungs,
A new reality has been birthed into the world.
exactly, you produced an outcome, a mess and a noise that was entirely absent before your intervention.
Ah, I see. So the requirement isn't necessarily that I can physically hold the thing in my hand.
Yep.
The requirement is that a distinct, identifiable new reality has been manufactured by my actions.
You got it. You are the author of a specific result. And that concept of authorship is why our sources list other abstract examples for make, like make plans, make a decision, make a mistake.
Make an exception, make an excuse, make money.
Yeah, you are producing every single one of those outcomes. You conjure a decision into existence out of a state of indecision.
Wow. Okay. So if make is hoarding all these abstract results and outcomes, it makes me wonder, what is left for do when our language gets vague?
So do takes over when we are talking about general, entirely non-specific activities.
Okay.
The sources point out a pretty rigid rule, actually. If you use vague pronouns like anything, something, nothing, or everything, you always use do.
Because there is no specific product, abstract, or physical to point to.
Exactly. You say, I didn't do anything yesterday, or she's doing something in the kitchen.
Right.
Because you aren't naming a specific task or identifying a created object, do acts as the ultimate catch-all bucket for generalized activity.
It's just pure, undefined engine idling. Like when we say, let's do something fun this weekend, we're just asking to turn the engine on without knowing our destination yet.
That underlying logic holds up beautifully for most of the language, but we do have to acknowledge that English is littered with fixed expressions. These are idioms and set phrases where the logic is buried so deep in linguistic history that the original reasoning has basically fossilized.
Ah, the dreaded rote memorization phase of learning a language.
A worst part, yeah.
The sources rattle off a list of these set combinations that simply defy the neat boxes. For instance, we always say, do your best. We do good, we do harm.
Do a favor, do business.
Right. A learner might logically think, wait, I am creating a business deal or I am producing harm, so I should use make.
But English has solidified these specific phrases with do over centuries of usage. They are structural monuments that cannot be moved, and you just kind of have to accept them as they are.
Well, now that we have a solid understanding of the factory products, the abstract outcomes, and the fossilized expressions, I want to leave make behind entirely.
Let's do it.
I want to look entirely at the mechanics of do, because here's where it gets really interesting. Do isn't just a static word that sits quietly in a sentence.
No, it shapeshifts based on the environment it finds itself in. It is highly adaptable.
It really is.
Its physical form changes depending on two major variables: who is performing the action and when that action is taking place.
The sources outline the present tense mechanics first, and honestly, it requires a fair amount of mental agility.
It does.
Use the base form, do, for the pronouns I, you, we, and they, And it also applies to any plural nouns. So you get sentences like, I do my homework, you do magic tricks, or the students do their shopping.
But the moment the subject of the sentence shifts to he, she, it, or a singular noun, the verb undergoes a transformation.
Right, it becomes does.
Exactly. You say, she does very interesting work, he does karate, the vacuum cleaner does a better job. This is just a fundamental grammatical agreement rule.
And for a native speaker, that shift is entirely subconscious. But if you think about the cognitive load this places on someone learning the language, it's staggering.
Oh, it's a ton of work.
They have to compute the subject, determine if it is singular or plural, check if it's first, second, or third person, and then select the correct verb form, all in the span of a millisecond during a live conversation.
The word does acts as a very specific vocal flag. When you hear does, it instantly signals to your brain that the speaker is talking about a third-party someone or something else in the singular form.
It really carries a lot of informational weight.
It does.
It's almost a relief that when we move into the past tense, the language just abandons all those complex agreement rules and collapses the whole system into a single word for everyone.
Yes, the past tense is the great equalizer of English verbs.
Whether the subject is I, you, we, they, he, she, or it, the verb simply becomes did. The cognitive load drops to zero.
It's so much easier.
The sources provide some wonderfully simple examples to showcase this. Sally did her hair. The boys did very well. We did all the cleaning yesterday.
It doesn't matter if it's one girl, a large group of boys, or an inanimate object. Did is a universal key that fits every single lock in the past tense.
Now, up until this point in our exploration, we've only been looking at do, does, and did as main verbs, meaning they are the primary action happening in the sentence.
Right, like Sally is actually applying the effort to style her hair. They are acting as the primary engine driving the meaning of the sentence.
But the sources reveal that these words serve a secondary, incredibly powerful function.
Yes, if we connect this to the bigger picture, they operate as the ultimate helping or auxiliary verbs.
If we go back to our car analogy, if the main verbs are the engine, these auxiliary verbs are the transmission.
I love that.
They are the structural mechanisms that allow us to shift gears into asking questions or forming negative statements. You literally cannot comfortably navigate spoken English without them.
Let's examine how they function in questions. In older forms of English, or in many other languages today, you could just invert the subject and the verb to ask a question.
Like you could say, like you ice cream.
Exactly. But if I walk up to you today and say, like you ice cream, it sounds archaic, or it sounds like I am translating word for word from a completely different linguistic operating system.
Right. Modern English demands that we draft a helper verb to front-load the sentence. We say, do you like ice cream? Does she play guitar? Did you watch the movie?
The helper verb jumps to the very front of the line to serve as a warning flare.
A warning flare.
Yeah, it signals to the listener, brace yourself, a question is incoming. It prepares the listener's brain to formulate a response before the actual topic of the question has even been stated.
Oh, that's brilliant. And they serve the exact same structural purpose for negative statements. You cannot simply say, I not like spicy food.
No, the word not isn't strong enough to stand on its own. You have to bring in the transmission to handle the gear shift.
Right. I do not like spicy food. Or, in its contracted form, I don't like spicy food. He doesn't drink coffee. They didn't finish the project.
It really highlights how deeply reliant the language is on these structural pillars just to express simple disagreement or inquiry.
And this reliance introduces a massive trap that the sources highlight, a structural pitfall that honestly even native speakers trip over when they are speaking too quickly or tiredly.
Oh, you are referring to the double pass trap.
Yes. When you are asking a question in the past tense, you use did. We've established that as the universal key. But the sources flash giant red warning lights regarding the main verb that follows.
They do, it's a big one.
When you use did, the main verb must return to its base, untensed form.
The temptation for learners is to apply the past tense to everything in the sentence. Their brain knows the action happened yesterday, so they put the helper verb in the past tense did, and then they forcefully shove the main verb into the past tense as well.
Turning go into went. They end up saying, did she went to school?
Which results in a structural overload. If we use your mechanics metaphor, did is already supplying all the necessary torque.
Right.
Did is fully engaged, pulling the weight of the past tense for the entire sentence.
The transmission is fully handling the load, which means the main verb doesn't have to work hard at all. The main verb gets to just idle in its base form.
Exactly.
It is, did she go to school? Never did she went.
And that exact same division of labor applies to negatives. You say, I didn't eat breakfast. You would never say, I didn't eat breakfast.
Because the word didn't has already absorbed the reality of the past tense, so the verb eat can remain completely unaltered.
Grasping that concept that the helper verb does the heavy lifting so the main verb can relax completely demystifies one of the most frustrating aspects of English grammar.
It really does.
Yeah.
But, the utility of these auxiliary gears doesn't stop at just forming questions and negatives. The sources point out a fascinating cultural nuance where we use these words to navigate social friction.
Yeah, this is the intersection where pure grammar meets social grace. We deploy these helper verbs to emphasize truth or to disagree with someone without sounding aggressive.
Think about the last time you tried to correct someone who made a polite but incorrect assumption about you. Let's role-play this to see how the gears turn. Imagine we're at a dinner party and you mistakenly assume my culinary preferences.
Okay, I might say, I went ahead and ordered the mild curry for you, since I think you don't like spicy food.
Right, so if I reply by simply stating the literal truth, I like spicy food, the sentence feels blunt.
It lands like a contradiction.
Exactly. And it can easily be interpreted as combative or ungrateful. But if I engage my auxiliary verb, I can add a layer of warmth and enthusiastic correction. Oh, I do like spicy food. I just prefer it mild tonight.
By inserting do, you aren't just stating a fact, you are affirming the truth of your own preference while softening the blow of correcting your host.
It acts as a linguistic cushion. It's a defense mechanism built right into the verb structure. And it works across time frames, too. Like, I did enjoy the concert, even if I look tired.
It validates the experience without starting an argument.
Exactly.
And beyond politeness, these verbs serve one final, crucial function for the daily flow of communication. They act as conversational placeholders to prevent agonizing repetition.
Oh, they are the ultimate efficiency tool. Language naturally seeks the path of least resistance. If I say to you, I absolutely love chocolate ice cream, it would be incredibly robotic and inefficient for you to reply, I absolutely love chocolate ice cream too.
It stalls the momentum of the conversation completely. Instead, we use the helper verb to encapsulate the entire previous thought. I simply reply, I do too.
She plays the piano incredibly well.
Yes, she does.
We didn't watch the movie last night.
Neither did I.
See, do, does, and did step in as lightweight substitutes for heavy, complex clauses.
They keep the rhythm of the conversation moving briskly, allowing speakers to bounce ideas back and forth without getting bogged down in redundant vocabulary.
So what does this all mean? We've covered a tremendous amount of mechanical ground today. We started by separating the raw action and effort of do from the tangible creation and produced outcomes of make.
We explored the messy realities of the language, navigating abstract decisions, the manufacturing of a mess, and the fossilized nature of fixed expressions.
And then we took do, does, and did and examined their dual lives. We saw how they function as main actions requiring complex cognitive agreement in the present tense.
And how they transform into the essential structural transmission for questions, negatives, polite emphasis, and conversational rhythm.
Right.
For anyone listening, analyzing these concepts isn't about passing a strict grammar test. It's about recognizing the invisible forces that make your speech smoother, more empathetic, and just deeply natural.
Absolutely.
These tiny words are the critical gears that keep the entire engine of English running quietly in the background.
Which brings me to a final thought I want you to mull over today. The next time you find yourself in a conversation, pay attention to how often you rely on these seemingly empty helping verbs.
It's more than you think.
Oh, way more. We just spent a lot of time analyzing how English absolutely demands words like do and does just to ask a simple question, to say no, or to keep the conversational momentum alive.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what does that deep structural reliance reveal about the English language? Does it suggest that English prioritizes the rhythmic beat, the structural music of a sentence, over simply stacking literal vocabulary words together to convey meaning?
That's an interesting way to look at it.
The next time you turn the key in the ignition of a conversation, take a second to listen to the hum of those hidden gears. You might be surprised at how much torque they are actually generating.